to thank Major General Ashok Kumar for so wonderfully arranging this meeting. I do hope in the next 50 minutes to 60 minutes, I will convince every one of you in this auditorium that you are doing an injustice to yourself, to your family, to your friends, colleagues, everybody, if you do not embrace what I call technology-enabled remote health care. Just to give you an example, I am a neurosurgeon. About 8 years ago, I published a paper which showed that 930 million Indians lived in areas in India where there was not a single neurologist or neurosurgeon. It may be different, but this mentions everything. If I look very, very carefully and search on the photo on the left, I'm sure my grandfather is somewhere there. If I don't have to search that much to find out that my grandson is certainly going to be in the 35th floor or the 45th floor. This is what India has done in my generation. I have seen my grandfather, I am seeing my grandchildren, and every one of you here, I'm sure, are going to live in a country where India is going to make for the world. We will stop, as I said, this talk is 2030. So just 7 years from now, we are going to have 1.3 billion square feet of additional healthcare space in India. The personalized, participatory, preventive healthcare is going to be the future. No less a person than Dr. Pratap Reddy, the founder of the largest corporate hospital group in this part of the world, he made a public statement about a year and a half ago. He said, the aim of the Apollo group is to reduce footfalls in its 72 hospitals. In other words, every one of you, doctors of the future, are going to be paid more to prevent a cardiac disease from coming than from doing an unnecessary bypass surgery or a stenting. So this is the world we are going to live in. The digital healthcare ecosystem. Now, if you look at it, this is going to be essential even when we are unborn. From antenatal life till even after you leave this world physically, there will be some reason or the other. When I was a medical student 50 years ago, a doctor and a patient was a one-to-one relationship. I sat in front of the patient interacted with me. Today, my dear friends, a doctor, I replace the word doctor with healthcare provider. The halo around the doctor, which existed half a century ago, is no longer there. Today, a doctor is only a part of the team. Maybe the first among equals, but is only one in the ecosystem, which consists of nurses, diagnostic laboratories, hospitals, insurance, pharmacy, and so on. The letter M is going to precede everything. When we talk of an EMR, electronic medical record, when we talk of a PHR, personal health record, triage, teleconsulting, whatever it is, it's all going to be on a mobile device. It could be a personal digital assistant, what used to be called PDA before, or it could be a smartphone. Last month, TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, said we have exceeded the 1 billion mark so far as mobile phones are concerned. Rural India today in 2023 has a staggering tele-density of 80%. And in Delhi, Madras, I don't know about Jaipur, but Delhi, I think Jaipur must be the same, the tele-density is 140%. For every 100 people living in the city of Delhi, there are 140 SIM cards. This is where India is going so far as ICT is concerned. So whether you call it emergency responses, whether you call it diagnosis, whether you call it health insurance, everything is going to be on a mobile medium. We are going to have real-time dashboards, as I will show you what we have personally been doing for the last couple of years. So the digital care, healthcare ecosystem is going to talk about next generation, it's called NG abbreviation, drug database. Again, when I was even a postgraduate, I had to read all the books, I had to retain in my brain, I had to recall, and that was how I faced examinations. Today, I'm sure you've read in the media that ChatGPT is able to pass the bar examination, is able to pass the Emily examination. So you people are going to live with ChatGPT, and it is time that you understand that I'm very sad that the letter N, word NI is never used at all. Everybody talks about AI. But we need to remember that AI is a product of NI, natural intelligence, native intelligence, and this God-given cerebral cortex is what produced AI in the first place. I belong to the BC era. I'm not talking of before Corona, I'm talking of before computers. I was the last neurosurgeon in this country who was trained before there was a single computer in the hospital. I studied at the Madras Medical College, the oldest medical college in this part of the world, 1835. Government General Hospital, one of the biggest, then the biggest hospital in the country. We did not have a computer. There was no CT scan when I trained as a neurosurgeon. But belonging to that generation, I love technology, I embrace technology, or I wouldn't be here today. But please remember, and I'm sad, I'm concerned, I'm worried that you people are going to use technology. Please remember, technology is a means to achieve an end and not an end by itself. A fool with a tool is still a fool. Last Lexer, the inventor of the gamma knife, said, this was his statement, and he also said, when you have a hammer, everything around you looks like a nail. And if it is an expensive hammer, even more so. Please remember that as people belonging to the healthcare ecosystem, whatever be your role, whether you're a healthcare informatician, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a professor of fetal medicine, doing surgery of the unborn, it doesn't matter. The reason for your existence, to my existence, is TLC, tender loving care. I wish to wipe the tears off a patient even if I know that he is going to die in 3 months from now. And I'm going to show you that this can be done virtually, this can be done remotely. You do not have to be face to face. What is driving digitization in healthcare? I got into telemedicine in 1998. Everybody laughed, ridiculed. They said because I cannot cut and stitch, that is why I left neurosurgery, though I became president of the Neurological Society of India. Nevertheless, I left neurosurgery. They said because I was not able to go up in neurosurgery. People didn't understand that you can leave a specialty out of sheer love, out of sheer passion, out of the feeling that this is the future. And the last couple of years have shown that my decision quarter of a century ago was not wrong. You can see here improved access. Patient-centric is the new mantra. It's no longer hospital-centric. It's no longer disease-centric. It's no longer diagnostic-centric. It is a patient, patient, patient alone. When I was a house surgeon, I obviously took the blood pressure. I took the urine sample. I collected the urine sample from the patient, went to the ward bedside lab, heated the urine, and tried to find out if there's albumin or sugar. I foresee that when you people are as consultants, I may or may not be here, but you will see that patients in 2030 are going to do their own ultrasound. Nowadays, of course, we use POCD, point of care diagnostics. All of you know, every one of you checked your blood sugar. Today the day has come where you can check cholesterol, triglyceride, renal function tests, cardiac enzymes, everything can be done at home. A hospital in your pocket, a laboratory in your pocket, this is already happening. By 2030, this will be absolutely normal. So you can see we are driving digitization in healthcare. This slide is really not correct. As retail becomes stronger, what will move out to the hospital? I just didn't have time, otherwise I would have remade this slide and I would have said, what will be in the hospital in 2030? McKinsey, Ernst & & Young, some of the world's biggest companies, they have predicted that in the future, there will no longer be 1,000-bedded hospitals. There will no longer be 500-bedded hospitals. Instead, there will be 75-bedded, 100-bedded, standalone, single specialty hospitals. I was asked to give an opinion 15 years ago whether we could have a standalone neurology hospital in Madras. We did a lot of work. But then we concluded no, because I argued that a patient with a brain tumor also has hypertension, diabetes, he's got a skin problem, the patient could be pregnant, blah, 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 blah. I require 20 different specialists, and therefore I cannot have a standalone specialty hospital. Today, that's absolutely wrong. Today, I can get any specialist anywhere in the world, a subspecialist, within 20 minutes or 30 minutes in my smartphone. Therefore, hospitals of the future, particularly for you, 60%, I guarantee you, 60% of beds in a hospital in 2030 will be ICU beds. Because the hospital of the future will not have OP, will not have diagnostics, will not have hernia, hydrocele, even mastectomy. Brain tumors today are being done, even in India, brain tumors are being done as daycare surgery. Patient comes at 5:30 in the morning, he is thoroughly worked up, surgery takes 3-4 hours, 10 o'clock he's reversed from anesthesia, at 7 in the evening his discharge goes home, and monitoring is done from his house. Today my bedroom can be converted into a step-down ICU. Apollo Hospitals has a pretty big division called the Apollo Home Care Division. I don't know the exact numbers, I'm not connected, but they see several thousands per day. A doctor monitors patients there. So this is the future. Hospitals will only do very major surgery, trauma, polytrauma, intensive care. Malaria, chickenpox, that, this, everything will be done at home. You will be converting your house into a hospital. Virtualizing healthcare delivery. Everything is going to be outsourced. Gone are the days when the CEO of a hospital or the medical superintendent of a hospital will be in charge of 30, 40, 50 departments. All India Institute of Medical Science, with all respects, there are 30, 40 aims coming up in the country today. I am not very sure that there is a place for such mega aims 15 years down the line. For the simple reason that most of these things can be done virtually. You can see radiology, we ourselves, I'll show you that a little later, we ourselves report about 1,500 to 2,000 images every day for Uttar Pradesh, for the government of Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, etc. Public-private partnership has taken off in an amazing way so far as healthcare is concerned using technology. Ouch. I was just saying that you will be, okay, thank you. So Apollo Hospital has already started what is called a digital hospital evolution. You need to know all these things take time. Rome was not built in a day. It takes enormous time, months, years to come. So I've divided this into hospital. So the hospital is going to be accreditation and certification will no longer be a luxury. When we got the first JCI accreditation 9 years ago, there were a lot of people who thought this was a marketing gimmick. But today, there are almost 50 to 60 hospitals in India which are JCI accredited, NABH accredited, National Laboratory accredited, and so on. The most important thing is these accreditations are not a single lifetime. The re-accreditation every 2 years, and believe me, you're on your feet. Imagine if you pass your master's degree in health informatics, and imagine if the degree is valid only for 5 years. If I had the authority, I did everything possible when I was Secretary, Urological Society of India, but I couldn't do it. In my opinion, I am a liability to society. I got my MBBS 50 years ago, my MCH 40 years ago. I am a menace to society unless there is a proper recertification process which ensures that I am up to date with what is happening. I need to be future ready. Nothing of what I practice as a neurosurgeon today existed when I got a master's degree in neurosurgery. The Delhi High Court has said that any car or vehicle cannot be on the roads of Delhi if it is more than 15 years old. It has to be destroyed. When that is importance you give to a vehicle, why is it that are allowing people like me with white hair to continue to practice without my recertification? I think this is very, very important. Unfortunately, there's a resistance to this. I think okay, the clinician. So I was talking to the hospital, the clinician of the future. Let's be frank, making profit is not a dirty word. People believe that it is sexy to have philanthropy, to say I work in the villages, I work in the rural India. It is nothing wrong in also working in urban areas. Unless there is revenue generation, no project will be self-sustaining. That is important. And it is time that somebody has to pay for health care. It could be the government, it could be the income tax department, it could be the insurance company, whatever it is. Modern healthcare is going to be expensive. And here you can see we are now using words like decision support systems, digital influencer. We never had words like this. This terminology itself is absolutely new terminology. The patient. And believe me, by 2030, it's already started. When a patient comes to me at the Apollo hospitals, I have subspecialized in an area called stereotactic radiosurgery, particularly cerebral arteriovenous malformations. Believe me, the patient knows as much as I know, if not a little more, about the various treatment options for his particular condition. He has to Google. Facebook and Google has caused much more problems to us doctors than anybody else. So by 2030, ChatGPT and everything else, every single 30 years ago, nobody would read Gray's Anatomy because it was such a voluminous book. Today, Gray's Anatomy can be on your telephone. So anybody can just type out and then read the anatomy, physiology, that thing, this thing, etc. So the patient to the future, the e-patient to the future is going to be empowered. He is going to be electronic, and you jolly well better start reading 6 hours a day if you want to know at least as much as your patient does. Can something be done about this? I don't know. Okay, I think I missed one slide, doesn't matter. Now, AI is no longer a buzzword. Even 2 years ago, AI was a buzzword. I'm just giving you one example of Apollo hospitals because I'm associated with that hospital. There are 6 different AI projects which we are now using clinically. And it's a matter of great pride, not because it's Apollo, forget Apollo. As an Indian, I feel very happy that we have devised a system today which we have been licensed to the Netherlands, to Singapore. We are in discussions with the United States, with the NHS, UK, etc. Every one of these AI projects are entirely 100% made out of data available in this country, worked by people who are all Indians, people working in India. You can see here chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, pre-diabetes, etc. Today it is possible to predict with a 99% accuracy that a 72-year-old woman who has a health checkup has a 1.423 times chance of developing a cardiovascular disease in the next 3 years because she has A, B, C, D, E. So this is where we have advanced. All of you have heard of Gray's Anatomy. Many of you may not be aware. Gray's Anatomy is to anatomy. There's no anatomy anywhere in the world without Gray's Anatomy. Similarly, there is no critical care without the Critical Care Clinics of North America. Critical Care Clinics of North America is a book, a journal, a Bible to any intensivist in the world. It's a matter of great satisfaction for us that we were asked to contribute a chapter which was published last year on telemedicine to expand access to critical care around the world. With my colleague Harinath, who is an intensivist in Hyderabad. He does fantastic work in Hyderabad, and I had 2 other authors, one from South America, one from the United States, and this, though published just a year ago, this chapter has already been quoted, cited by Google scholars several times. This is a typical setup for a telecritical command center at Apollo Hyderabad. In the next talk, I will go in a little more into details. We also published a paper for the first time. Now, I want to emphasize this. These papers are published from a corporate hospital, from a dividend declaring company, for a for-profit company. So let us get away from the feeling that academic work, good academic work can only be done in national institutes and top-class universities. No, it depends on the individual and the environment in which he or she works. So neuro-intensive care during the COVID time, we were able to give more than 92 neurological intensive care opinions in 17 different ICUs across the country in small districts. I borrowed this slide from Dr. Sangeeta Desai, who is one of the leaders in digital pathology in India. She is the head of the Department of Pathology at Tata Memorial Hospital. She presented this paper at a conference in Delhi a couple of weeks ago, and it is absolutely amazing to see the work being done in India. Today, pathologists at the Tata Memorial Hospital in their house, during the height of the pandemic, when there was total lockdown, they reported every single case they reported. There was no lockdown so far as pathology was concerned. They put up a technological system. These papers have been published, and this is absolutely amazing that today India is one of the leaders in digital pathology. This again is a slide borrowed from Fitbit Google. As you know, Google has taken over Fitbit. This was presented by the head of Fitbit Google, so he should know what he's talking about. And wearables are not going to be just, I also have, somebody gave me the smartwatch recently. I also have all sorts of parameters. I don't even know how to use half the things in my watch. So this is what is going to have. Wearables are going to be much more. I like to think I'm a scientist, I'm a pseudo-scientist. So there are solid scientific data and meta-analysis of papers published regarding wearables, and they have shown that all these items have been shown. And what is interesting is at least 4 IITs which I am aware of in India, and the Coimbatore Institute of Technology and 2 or 3 other engineering colleges are doing very advanced work on smart textiles. I understand, you should be knowing, sir, that in Kargil there are some pilot projects going on now where our soldiers are wearing this, so that when a bullet sharpener penetrates this, based on the ultrasound which it emits, a command center, all Bluetooth enabled, Zigbee, that, this, etc. A command center will know with GPS tracking system that this particular soldier, the bullet has penetrated the skin, gone into the bone, gone out into the pericardium. The other guy is stopped here, etc. A helicopter will be diverted there. This is being routinely done in the last Iraq war. It's also being done in the Ukraine-Russian war. The number of papers which have come out in the Ukraine-Russian conflict using telemedicine and critical care is absolutely amazing. So it is sad that we require a war to develop technology, but this is what is going to happen. Connected healthcare devices, continuum, a popular word now used is continuum of healthcare. It's very, very important, and this is where health informatics, I beg to disagree with you, sir. You said 10% of data is used. I think you're being extremely optimistic. I think less than 1% of data is actually being used. 99% of the data, probably, even in big hospitals, is probably not collected correctly, is not stored correctly, not retrieved correctly. And even if you do all this with data, give me data, this is what Sherlock Holmes told Watson. Arthur Conan Doyle mentioned this when he knew nothing about health informatics. So, collection of data, documentation, storage, retrieval, manipulation, every one of this is absolutely important. Now here again, I believe the future is preventive. I mean, a corporate hospital believes that it will, from an ROI point of view, from a return on investment. I'm not talking of philosophical investment. I'm not saying millions of people will get better, be healthy, etc. By sheer increasing my bank balance, by making people go and get a master health checkup, by understanding, by predicting, by reducing the number of surgeries which will be required several years later, this is going to be financially viable, because as the years go by, Ayushman Bharat is a classical example. We are going to get universal health coverage. The universal health coverage is not BPL. It is not going to be restricted to those below the poverty line. just like the NHS United Kingdom, the richest of the rich coming in a Rolls-Royce car, he will also have free health care. When we say free, somebody is paying for it. It could be insurance or whatever it is. So this is very, very important. Now, I believe this is also the future. We have started our pilot projects. Why should people in the organized sector, why should a person working, take an IT company. There are at least 200 big IT companies. Out of the IT companies, why should an employee take leave? Why should he go through the traffic? No place to park the car, etc., etc. We have a smart health kiosk like this, where you just sit down in front, you put your hand inside, it takes the blood pressure, a voice-activated machine talks to you, asks you questions, you fill it up. You don't even have to type it out. Today, voice-activated, voice conversion, sound conversion to text has become amazing. We're all familiar with Google, Alexa, etc. So this is the future. All organized sector, this is going to happen, and this is how you're going to interact. How many of you know that the third commonest cause of death in the United States of America, presumably one of the most advanced countries in the world, is iatrogenic, is preventable death? Paper, not my conclusion, paper published by the journal, in the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, a study done at Johns Hopkins University. The third commonest cause of death, it is not cancer, not head injuries, not brain tumors, etc., but purely iatrogenic. And one of the reasons is drug-drug interaction, drug potentiation. Many doctors still prescribe 7, 8, 10, 12 drugs. It's impossible for me to remember that when I prescribe a steroid and an anticonvulsant and a skin condition, something, this drug interacts with the other. I don't often know that this young lady has a problem and whether the other lady is pregnant and so on and so forth. So we have developed software now, error-free medication ecosystem. So in the days to come, in 2030, all prescriptions are going to be e-prescriptions. So when it is digitized, a software will tell you that drug number 1 and drug number 7 are not compatible. It will also point out that this patient's urea and creatinine in a master health checkup done 4 months ago was 20% above permissible normal limits, and he is okay now. But by giving this drug, by taking Brufen or Combiflam, you are precipitating a possibility of his developing a renal failure, which is drug-induced. All this is very difficult for the human brain to associate. Softwares are already available, and I believe that by 2030, a pharmacist will be a robot. It's not going to be a human being. And this robot will have the authority to refuse to dispense a medicine prescribed by the professor of medicine or head of the department of medicine in any medical college, because the robot is going to give you data. Data is going to tell you that this is the mistake which you have done. IoT should be replaced with IoMT, Internet of Medical Things. Adding smart sensors, cost of sensors are plunging. I'm told you can get a sensor today for 1 rupee or 2 rupees. The bed in which I lie down in a few years from now will be, there are hundreds of sensors, and these sensors will monitor how many times I turn up and down, and if I don't turn enough number of times, a message will go to the monitoring station. The monitoring station will automatically turn the bed, particularly if I'm 80 years old, particularly if I'm a diabetic, I'm alone, my children are all living in America, there's nobody to look after me, the bird has flown away, the nest is empty. This is what all of us are experiencing. So this is the future, this is what is going to happen. The entire hospital, people, the hospitals of the future, Apollo Hospital, to the best of my knowledge, has at least 700 to 800 people working in the IT department alone. All the hospitals put together, I'm saying. I cannot think of a healthcare system which has 800 full-time employees working in the IT department. In 2030, this will probably become 8,000. It may become 80,000 because everything is going to be mechanized. Your wheelchair, you are a stretcher, you know the RFID tags, Big Brother is watching you all the time. So you know exactly where a patient is, where a nurse is, where the kitchen is, what is happening. You think about it. You're all, many of you are hospital administrator students, so you know better than me. So this is what is going to happen in the future. This is too complex a slide, excepting to tell you, look at this, sir. This slide is meant for you. You can see data, 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 data. Everything is data, and this is what the future is about. I'm delighted that in Madras we have Asia's largest simulation center. I spent a couple of hours there a few weeks ago taking the director of IIT Kanpur, showing him around, and you can see I'm trying to understand what it is. And today, when we talk of augmented virtual reality, when we talk of extended virtual reality, when we talk of quantum computing, robotics, etc., all this was a direct application in teaching. I foresee that in the National Medical Commission, if they are future ready, they should insist that in 5 to 10 years from now, every medical college, if I were in charge, every medical college should compulsorily have a simulation center, or this is what Apollo is planning, or you have, of course that's not possible practically, it's too expensive, but we should have at least 10 to 20 simulation centers in the country, and you must send your students compulsorily to these places. This is exactly what Apollo Hospital is now doing. Again, we started this about 7 years ago in Hyderabad, Apollo Telehealth Services. We have the largest 24/7 medical response center. We have almost 230 seats like this. At any given time, there are at least 150 people occupying it at any given time, 24/7. Nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, paramedics, experienced people do moonlighting so that they earn a little more money outside the working hours, and we are assured of people to work. The e-patient sees himself as an equal partner in healthcare decisions. The patient of 2030 will be equipped, enabled, empowered, expert, engaged. Simple things to E stands for etc. I think this is what is most important. The Ayushman Bharat, E-Sanjeevani has already touched 100 million consultations, and I'm sure this is going to multiply many more times. So it doesn't matter what you're using. Again, it's a matter of great pride, just like the G20. Incidentally, the G20 has got hundreds of scores of subdivisions. On April 17th and 18th, they are having a 2-day conference on digital health, where all the health ministers of G20 countries are going to be called, and we are going to make presentations so that India, the Prime Minister, the government is looking at promoting digital health, not just in India, but make in India digital health for the rest of the world. And the most amazing thing I heard was from the Additional Secretary, I heard that next year they are planning to have a digital health conference in India, where every single health minister of 170 countries representing the United Nations are going to be invited. Just imagine a conference with 170 health ministers, with India presiding in India. So this is the global agenda so far as health is concerned. This is a photograph which I love showing. We have hundreds of telemedicine centers. One of them is funded by University of Pittsburgh. It's in a remote area called Tuver, about 350 kilometers from Ahmedabad, a tribal area. Now, we've been doing this for the last 2 years. So about 4 months ago, this is what I mean by innovation. This is what I mean by hardcore intelligence. My boss, Dr. Ramurthy, used to tell me that the more formal education you have, the less common sense you have. And I think he's absolutely right. So here you can see 10, the poorest of the poor, who are about 20 miles in the interior to this telemedicine center. They hired a bullock cart. They chartered a bullock cart for a round trip of 200 rupees, paid 200 rupees, so the bullock cart guy was very happy, he earned 200 rupees. These guys traveled 1.5 hours and then had a consultation with our general physicians and dermatologists within 20 to 30 minutes of their coming to our center, and then they went back. They got drugs free of cost. This project is funded by University of Pittsburgh, so they did not pay a pile for it. And the same dermatologist who probably would have charged 1,000 or 1,500 rupees for a consultation for the elite of Madras city, the same dermatologist gave the same consultation, gave the same drug. to the poorest of the poor. So this is what the power of telemedicine. Can you switch on this video, please? Can you switch on the video? Just switch on the video. Now, in conclusion, the first talk in conclusion, you can see my cousins are very, very active. I have to differentiate me from my cousins. What is the difference between my cousins and me? Play that video, please. Actually, it's a longer video. I don't know why it's not. The only way I can differentiate myself from my cousins is what you call a website manner. It's very, very important that you empathize with the beneficiary, you sympathize with the beneficiary, you get into the mind of the person. I mean, I am a so-called sophisticated neurosurgeon in Chennai, Madras, a big city, in a big hospital, etc. Should I play a role in a small, I'm delighted, sir, every time you send a WhatsApp message saying that you're in your village. I'm absolutely delighted. How many people will do that? So I need to get into the mind of the people who are in your village when I give a teleconsultation. I need to understand what he wants, what his spouse wants, what his children want, what the family wants, etc. This is very important, and I'm very concerned that with technology taking over, we are losing track of that completely. And therefore, I have given a full talk in SGPJ, a 20-minute talk I gave on website manners. I think website manners is as important as this thing. So what matters most is how you see yourself. That is where every one of us have got a tremendous potential. There is no difference between Albert Einstein and between this girl sitting here and that girl sitting there. Absolutely no difference. When you look at Albert Einstein's brain, which has been done incidentally, they looked at this brain in great detail. They could not differentiate increased neurons, increased synaptic, nothing of that nonsense. You depends entirely on how you see yourself. Believe in what you are doing. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Don't give up easily. This is what differentiates you from the others. Never ever stop learning. I believe in the last few years, I've spent much more time learning than I did as a postgraduate in neurosurgery 40 years ago. And if Moses were to come down to earth again, all the 10 commandments he gave will be preceded by the word, thou shalt digitally transform. So I think this is the next one. This is the most important. If you people can still put up with it, and very quickly we'll finish the next presentation. Or if you think this is enough, you're already bored, I'll stop.
No.
See, I have a bad habit. When I start talking, I look at the calendar, not at the watch. Okay, quickly I'll go through telemedicine and critical care. Now, Jaipur, I'm emotionally attached to Jaipur in many, many ways. My first visit to Jaipur was in 1976. The second conference which I attended, Neurological Society of India. Then I also came to Jaipur in 82 or 83 for an FACS interview. I was the only one who passed that interview that time. So this in 2003, an international critical care congress was held in Jaipur. And believe it, 20 years ago, now retrospectively I wonder where I got the enthusiasm, the energy from, I wonder. But 20 years ago, I said I'll give a talk on telemedicine in critical care, 20 years ago. I prepared everything for it. 2 days earlier, my father fell ill, and obviously I couldn't leave my father. Then I thought, I said, I'm talking of telemedicine, then I told the organizers, look, this has never happened in a conference anywhere in India, to the best of my knowledge. I told the conference, look, I know it's difficult in Jaipur, short notice, but all I want is 128 kbps speed. Can you please get it somehow? I will arrange everything from my end. I don't remember now who the organizing secretary was, where it was, I just don't remember. Anyhow, it happened. So I went to the ICU. You can see the date. 10th February 2003, that's me sitting there with very little white hair at that time. So I went there, by the side of a bedside ICU patient, I gave my talk. I focused an ordinary camera, a webcam or something on the monitor, on the catheter, on that, on this, etc. And I showed 20 years ago that there is a role for telemedicine in critical care. You can see the telemedicine applications in critical care, Jai Ganapati, Chennai. The other speaker is UK, USA. It was an international conference. If I remember right, there are only 3 or 4 speakers from India. Again in 2006, the International Critical Care Congress was held in Chennai. Again, I gave a talk in 2006 about Chennai. These are my old slides. I couldn't resist the temptation of putting them back, just to show you that nothing is new. All these have been in existence for a long time. 2000 years ago, Hippocrates said, in acute diseases, it is not quite safe to prognosticate either death or recovery. 2023, most sophisticated technology in the world, the most experienced intensivists in the world, we still make mistakes in deciding whether this guy is going to survive or not. Now, I mentioned to you about the shortage of neurosurgeons. The shortage of critical care specialists probably is 20 times more. I don't think there are more than 1,000 people in India who are certified, qualified, trained critical care specialists or intensivists, and even this have come only very recently, including an MD in emergency medicine and things like that. All happened in the last 10 years. Providing infrastructure and maintaining standards is very, very difficult. Some of us older people are concerned that with the government moving heaven and earth to start medical colleges, every 2 weeks some new medical colleges coming up somewhere in India. Already there are 540 medical colleges, and it is foreseen that in the next 10 years this is going to become 800. Where are you going to get the teachers from? Where are you going to get the infrastructure from, etc.? So this is equally important. Now, ICU admissions, adverse events are going to increase. Mortality obviously will increase. It's only the very sick patient who's admitted in ICU. So we should not look so much at the mortality, but rather we should look at the number of patients who were discharged from the ICU back to a ward. That is much more important. So again, these slides were made long ago. A computer can systematically document, standardize, integrate, and interpret infinite ICU data to give a coherent picture. Look at this photograph. 31st October, just switch on that video, 2001. I now feel like kicking myself, and I want to share with you some of the major mistakes I made. Yes, I did a lot of good things, but what I did not do is much more important. Can you switch on the audio also? No. Get back to that. Good, excellent. It's very difficult for people sitting in an air-conditioned, beautiful auditorium in 2023 to realize that this was taken in October 2001 in the village of Aravanda, where Dr. Pratap Reddy was born. I had a pediatric cardiologist who had just returned from the United Kingdom, Prem Shekhar. Believe it or not, we did more than 160 echocardiograms between the ages of 3 months to 10 years with this pediatric cardiologist supervising. With those days we had 120 kbps, 256 kbps, ordinary webcam, no smartphones, nothing. On the regular landline, we would tell the technician, put the transducer here, do that, do this, etc. Unfortunately, just didn't have time. I could have spent a few hours less with prospectors. Otherwise, this would have been a monograph on tele-pediatric echocardiography for the first time in the world 20 years ago. So the tremendous opportunity to document, store, retrieve, analyze, publish was lost because of what we did. So this was 22 years ago. This was what we did. Now, 15% of ICU, all this data I got when I wrote the chapter in the book, so all this is absolutely scientific valid data. 15% of ICU beds in USA participate in telemedicine programs. That's a huge number. In India, I think it's less than, I don't have statistics, but my guess is less than 1%. The global tele-ICU market, it doesn't make any sense to me, is what multiplied by 80, about 600 crore billion, whatever that means. That is a huge market. Now, intensivist in a telemedicine enabled command center. I gave a talk in the ESI just a week ago, so I think I used the slide there. And I'm very happy that employee state insurance under the Ministry of Labour, Government of India, the Dean invited me to give a talk. There were almost 60-70 people, including their staff and all that. ESI Madras is very seriously thinking of not only starting a tele-ICU, but a tele-health for all its industrial employees. I am absolutely delighted that the government is doing this. Now, the first international tele-ICU service for United States hospitals from Chennai was established 13 years ago. Dr. Ramakrishnan, who is also a consultant at the Apollo hospitals, he has his own private center. He is an American board certified intensivist, sleep medicine, pulmonary medicine, critical care medicine, etc. So he has got a team of 3 to 4 board certified people, and you can see here 32,000 hours of remote monitoring from Madras, over 30 to 40 hospitals in the United States. The most ICUs, and please understand, by definition, an ICU cannot be in a small town or in a village. We are talking of a tier 2, tier 3 city at least. So I am assuming that basic infrastructure will be available, good connectivity, particularly in the years to come. So ventilator settings can be seen remotely, direct tele-recording of all this. This is again an old slide. So those days we used to photograph X-rays, we used to photograph with an ordinary webcam, the ventilator settings. Now, Philips has got a very expensive setup, which is what we use in Apollo Hyderabad. There are many competitors, there are at least 5 to 6 companies which have digitized everything. So all this information is now available. Now, okay, this is the book which I written. So this is our center in Hyderabad. You can see we are connected to this is neuro-intensive care. I published this in a neurology journal. You see there are 23 ICU centers neuro ICU, that is people having neurological problems. You can see here all neuro referral centers, about 13 of them center. I mean, the audience here is different, so I'm not going to go through all these details, excepting to tell you that we know exactly today what is required, what is the hardware, what is the software, what is the connectivity. All this information is available in the chapter which we had published. Increased survival indicators, lot of data is available, Western data and little Indian data, which shows beyond doubt that a tele-ICU reduces mortality, reduces morbidity, reduces length of hospital stay in an ICU, and therefore reduces ICU infection, which is a ICU acquired infection, which is a major problem anywhere in the world. So all this has happened. Now, of course, during the pandemic, I think I'm not saying because I'm associated with the organization, but like most other organizations also, I think every one of us, I'm sure your Mahatma Gandhi must have done equally fantastic work during the pandemic. It was amazing. We set up 12 ICU centers, makeshift ICU centers for NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation. NTPC generates 5% of India's power requirements. Many of these factories are in remote areas, Indo-China border. Bungayon, I think it's called. I visited there 4 years ago when we got the contract. We run telemedicine centers for NTPC and all this. Again, many of these papers have been published, particularly for the COVID. You can see here type of this thing, etc. I'm not going into the details, and this audience is not suitable. Just to give you an example, as I told you, we are connected to about 30 or 32 centers. In 1 month, not in 1 month, 18 days in January, 36, just to give you an idea, a feel, 36 patients in a remote ICU center in 18 days required oxygen requirement. The intensivist in Hyderabad said you require oxygen, and so on and so forth, shifted to the ward. This is most important. Out of 38 or 39, 29 patients were shifted to the ward and so on. For lack of time, sorry, I don't think, this is important. So certification requires a clinical practice. These are all new things. I don't think you are taught in your MD, your anesthesia, or your MD general medicine or anywhere. This is all hands-on learning, hands-on training, and I know I don't have the authority, neither am I competent to make an offer, but I think if anybody is interested, I'm fairly certain I can persuade the concerned people to handhold you when we are starting a tele-ICU, you want a little more this thing, etc. It should be possible to spend a few days with us and tell it. So EICUs are becoming the new normal. I've already told you this. Specialized ICUs will constitute 50% of standalone beds in single specialty hospitals. So what is the take-home message? The take-home message is technology is never the stumbling block. It is not non-availability of 5G that is a stumbling block. The end users need to believe in EICU, ask for it and start using it. Both the end user as well as the tele consultant. I'll stop with this, otherwise everybody will start throwing stories.